Okay. Today I've got an exercise on question asking. I'm trying to accomplish two things with this class session. I want to introduce question asking skills, and I want to introduce the content of the opening of the textbook. So we're going to ask questions about the study of moral competence. Before I go farther with the question asking exercise, I want to point out something that happened in the online section, which is I got a good question. And I want to share this question with people who aren't in the online section so you can see. Basically, here, I'll read it word for word and then put it more succinctly. After listening to your first class where you said that some questions were bad, where other questions were good, I tend not to understand that philosophy. I feel I don't learn the same way as others. Sometimes when I try to understand things that the majority are understanding, I need things explained in a different way. Sometimes in my career, questions that are asked do not give the full picture, and sometimes the strangest, or what some people consider the stupidest of questions, lead to the solving of the, quote, crime or situation. Maybe I'm cynical because I see a lot more bad than good. I need the facts to make an argument. Your thoughts, please. I think this is an excellent question right here. I made a rather challenging statement in the previous class. I said there was such a thing as a stupid question, and there's such a thing as good questions. And so this student is giving me pushback on that, which is excellent. Furthermore, she's got a good point here about questions that seem stupid at first, right? The questions that seem stupid at first can turn out to be extremely revealing, right? But what that means is that they weren't really stupid questions. They were, in fact, the best kind of question. Well, one of the best kinds of questions. And very often, this is the kind of question that happens when everyone assumes they understand something. This is almost all of what we do in philosophy professionally. Everyone assumes they understand something, and then you ask about it, and people go, pshaw, everyone knows how that works. And then you try to actually answer it, and you realize that you don't know how it works. Those are great questions. I love those questions. In general, if you feel like the conversation is going away from what you're understanding, right? And you pipe up, the odds are strong actually that you're going to ask a good question because you've got some assumption that no one else has, or other people have assumptions that you don't have. And so that is that can be great. And in general, I say there are stupid questions, but I don't mean to. I don't want people who feel like they've got a learning style that is different than other people in the class to feel worried that I'm going to come down on them like an anvil. I'm not actually going to sit around and say, that, you asked a stupid question. Go home. Stand in the corner, wear a dunce cap. That's not what I'm going to be doing. So don't worry about that. Okay. So here's the exercise for today. Send this around. This is a group exercise. We're going to pair up. What I want you to do is form pairs and put both of your names on a piece of paper. This will be an exercise that I collect and I will grade immediately, rather than so you don't have to hang on to it in your exercise portfolio. In general, exercises that that are group exercises are ones that I will collect at the end of class. And the goal here is to generate, what you need to do in your group is generate questions. I want 20 questions between the two of you. included on this handout is a list of question stems. And this is just a little practical guide. I find this very useful, actually. This was from an educational psychologist named Allison King, who wrote a couple articles about how to teach question-asking skills. But one of the things that she included in her article was a list of question stems. These are sort of forms that you can stick subjects in to generate questions. So you can look on your list, and also up here. Right. So here's some stems. You know, how are blank and blank similar? If you just have that in your mind as a template for a question, you can start plugging things in from the course. And if you plug in unexpected combinations, you might wind up with an interesting question. So what do you think causes blank? Why? What is the meaning of blank? What are the implications of blank? How does blank apply to everyday life? That's one that people love to ask. What is the difference between blank and blank? What would happen if blank? What is a counter argument to blank? All these things. These are very good. And these are on your handout here. Because King was an educational psychologist, she was interested in what skills are invoked when you ask certain kinds of questions. And so the right-hand column lists the kinds of skills that she thinks are invoked. That's just there for your edification. You don't need to worry about that. The main thing that's helpful here is using this list of stems to help trigger more questions for you. Okay. The other thing I wanted to note was what topics you can be asking questions about. The reading for today included the preface and the introduction. And there's actually a lot of material covered in those two sections, even though they're very short. One of the things that's distinctive about this textbook is that it packs a lot of ideas into a short space. So I just wanted to give you some bullet points here to review, to remind you of all the different things in the reading that you could ask about. For instance, there are quotations at the beginning of both the preface and the introduction. What are those doing there? He doesn't really provide explanation. The introduction mostly, one thing that's interesting there is it provides a discussion of the nature of moral competence. And then the preface describes the nature of moral competence and the contents of the book. And the introduction has two main sections. One on the idea that always is kicking around that somehow people are less moral now than they used to be. And there are two sociologists, a sociologist and a political pundit who have made this argument, Robert Putnam and Francis Fukuyama. And that's discussed. And then the last section talks about the study of ethics and gives you some concepts for the study of ethics. So all of these are things that you could focus your question asking on. So let's do this. I'm anticipating that this will take 20 to 25 minutes to generate 20 questions for each pair. And then when we're done, I will take your best questions. I'm going to ask, put a star next to the one that you want answered most, and I'll try to answer it. Okay. Yes?
I have a question. Since we have access to the discussion board through Angel, can we go and read some of the question and answer
Please do.
Articles and stuff in there?
I encourage that. And if you want credit, if you miss a class session and you want to make it up online, to make it up online, you've got to do the full rigmarole, which means downloading the audio, participating in the discussion board, and doing the online exercise. And all of that's supposed to simulate the class session. So yes, please do. Any other questions? Okay, go figure out more questions.